Hey everybody, my name is Erica and today I'm going to be giving you my January wrap-up. So I'm pretty happy with all the books I read in January. I read 7 books, which is pretty decent, but apparently last year I read like 10 books in January, so now I'm kind of like, what have I been doing? But I did just go back to work this week and I'm going to make sure I try to carve out reading time every single day just because it's so important to me and I want to keep up this reading streak. I want to do at least 5 books a month. Hopefully I can do more than that, but it's kind of difficult. Anyway, I am very happy with the books I read and I'm excited to share those with you. The first book I finished in January was Girl, Serpent, Thorn by Melissa Barshadow. Hopefully I said that right. But this book was absolutely lovely. It is an Iranian-based fantasy retelling of Sleeping Beauty. And it is just really lovely. So in this book, we're following this girl named Soraya who has been kind of kept hidden in her kingdom. She isn't hidden, but she isn't really allowed to attend social gatherings and everything. And that's because years before, she was cursed with poison in her veins so that anyone who touches her will die. So basically, she's kind of had to stay secluded because she doesn't want to hurt anyone. And she believes it was an accident that her mom stumbled upon a park in a forest, freed the park, and then was cursed by a div. These are the type of demons in this story that we're following. Divs are these ugly, horrible creatures, and then pariks are also demons, but they're more human-like, more beautiful, and they have wings and everything. So Soraya has lived her life kind of all secluded and everything. The only place she can really explore are these tunnels that are hidden in the walls of the palace, and she goes exploring one day, stumbles upon the prison, and then finds out that they're keeping a parik there who is named Parvane. Soraya believes that Parvane will be able to tell her how to rid herself of this curse so she can live a normal life. But then Parvane needs Soraya to find this feather, and this feather is actually burning in this fire in their little temple that they have. This feather that burns in this thing protects her family, and that if she were to remove that feather, her family would not be protected anymore. Soraya is kind of over her family, and so she does want to try to break her curse. In doing so, she betrays her family, and then she ends up being betrayed by someone she was very close to, and she ends up being captured. She's being held at this other area that is run by the demons. Her and Parvane end up teaming up, trying to save Parvane's family as well as Soraya's family. Meanwhile, Soraya is battling this inner struggle between wanting this poison and not wanting this poison inside of her. I'm not doing the best explanation, but I absolutely loved this book. We have a bisexual main character, which is Soraya, but then we have a female-female romance, and it's written so beautifully. I'm just obsessed. The descriptions in this book were absolutely breathtaking. The writing was really lovely. I really like that the concept was very morally gray. We have this girl who's really fighting between wanting this poison and not wanting this poison, making these really questionable decisions that go against her family, and then also her family having made really poor decisions in the past. But there's just a lot of miscommunication and just a lot of things that they don't know about each other. And the morally gray storyline was just, I thought, really well done because it makes you root for these negative choices because you feel like it'll be better in the end. But I love this story. There's this beautiful moment in a forest that's just described so perfectly. I don't want to spoil anything, but like I said, the writing is absolutely breathtaking, and I just felt so immersed in this new world and these characters, and I highly recommend it. Like I said, I gave it 4 out of 5 stars, and it was just such a beautiful Sleeping Beauty retelling. The next book that I finished was The Midnight Light by Marie Rudkowski. I actually have a full review for this, so if you haven't seen it, I'll leave a link maybe down below, but also in the corner. And I absolutely love this book. This was my first 5 out of 5 star rating on Goodreads for 2021. In this book, we are following this girl named Mira who is living in this place called the Ward. She lives on this island, and the Ward is this lower class area because they're all very secluded by classes. So it's divided up by a wall, and in the Ward there is no color really allowed. There's no sweets or just any sort of pleasures because those are all saved for the people who are considered high kith. And Niram and her people in the Ward are considered half-kith. So Niram really doesn't know anything about life outside the Ward. It's kind of a mystery to her until one day she stumbles upon this person named Sid, and Sid starts to make Niram question everything that she's grown up knowing about the Ward. And Sid is looking for this hidden magic, and Niram believes she can find the source of that because she thinks that some of that magic is in her. Because of her really strong memory, she can remember things that other people should never be able to recall, things in her past or things that maybe she's never seen before. It's very interesting. Her and Sid end up teaming up to try to work out what is going on in the Ward and whether or not there's actually magic there. I loved this book. Again, I have a full review for it, and I just was blown away by it. I wasn't expecting to enjoy it as much as I did. Initially, when I started it, I was kind of not a fan of the writing. It felt too descriptive at first, and we didn't get a lot of dialogue at the beginning. There was a lot of she said this, I responded like this, instead of actually like dialogue being there, which you end up getting really used to, and then you feel completely immersed in this world. It also takes place in the same world as the Winter's Curse series that she's written, which I have not read that series, but I've heard great things about it. But this is also a sapphic romance in here, and it was just written splendidly. I was just so amazed by it. And everything felt very specific, very descriptive, which was really nice. I felt like I could see everything really well, because sometimes I feel like in some fantasy books I have a hard time visualizing things. It's really easy to follow, and I did really love the story and the characters, the relationships, and the struggle of Niram trying to figure out who she is and what is happening to her, and it's just amazing. So I definitely love this one, and I'm very excited to get to the second book once it comes out. I don't know really when, but I really did enjoy it a lot. The next book I finished in January was Girls of Paper and Fire by Natasha Nang. This book I absolutely loved. I've heard amazing things about it on book Twitter and just booktube in general, and I was definitely not disappointed. So in this story we're following Lei, who is considered a paper caste. In this world we have paper caste who are regular humans. They don't have any magical abilities or any demon qualities in them. And then we have steel caste who are somewhat human and demon. They have like some animalistic qualities to them, but they're not completely demon. And then we have the moon caste who are the demons, and they're the highest caste, so they're fully demon and have a lot more like animal features to them, if that makes sense. So we have Lei. She is a paper caste, as I said. She's just living a normal life with her dad. Several years before, her mom had been taken by the king, and they never saw her ever again. And one day the general comes and takes Lei to the hidden palace because everyone believes that she will be good luck. So she has to become a paper girl for the king, which is the king's concubines. There are content and trigger warnings in this book, I do have to say. There is sex trafficking, rape, sexual abuse. There's a lot of violence as well. Lei goes to the hidden palace. She's very heartbroken, really missing her family. But then as she gets more into the life of the paper girls, she kind of starts to find friendship in these girls while also making some enemies along the way. One of the girls there is named Ren, and she really starts to take a liking to her. She's very intrigued by Ren. She can't tell whether or not Ren likes her or not. There are a lot of really subtle glances between them and little comments, but they slowly start to get to know each other a little bit better. Meanwhile, at the palace, there is kind of some civil unrest. I don't know if that's the right term, but there are people who aren't happy with the king and the way he's ruling, so he believes there are people that are out to get him. He tends to take out his anger a lot on these girls. He's very abusive to them, but some of the girls end up really liking him. Lei has a really horrible first encounter with him and decides that she really needs to get out of there and try to save these girls and save herself. She catches Ren one night sneaking out, and then starts to learn more about Ren and who she actually is. Being with Ren, she starts to learn more about what's going on with the king and everything and all the political like intrigue in there. I'm not explaining it very well, but I absolutely love this book. I love the relationships in this. I feel like the author did a really good job explaining everything and not going into too many details, but also making sure that people know like what happened and like her experiences with all of that. I love the world that it takes place in, and I felt like Lei was such a beautiful character, and she's very empathetic, and we get a lot more of that in the second book. Overall, this book was so beautiful. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. I was very happy with it and very excited to read the second book. I did end up reading Girls of Storm and Shadow. I'm not going to go into a lot of details for this, obviously, because it's the second installment, but I did love this book as well. I only gave it 4 to 5 stars. I feel like in this one we get a lot of character development. We get a lot of growth with Lei because we get to see her empathy, just how difficult things are for her and how much people affect her and just how much she cares for others. And I feel like we didn't get a whole lot of that in the first book, but we really get a nice strong development with her character as well as Ren. We learn a lot about her and her dark past and her intentions. I felt like the stakes were really high in the second book. The one thing I wasn't a big fan of was, I guess, the plot. It felt a little slow at times because we're traveling in this one, so we have to make sure we, get to each location. But overall, this one was also very good, and I'm excited for the last one, which is coming out this year. Before I read Girls of Storm and Shadow, I did read The Dawn Chorus, which is the novella that comes before The Mask Falling, which I absolutely loved. It was such a short novella, and I was really wanting more. I can't go into too many details because it takes place after The Song Rising, obviously before The Mask Falling, but The Dawn Chorus by Samantha Shannon follows Paige Mahoney after the song Rising and all of those difficult events. If you don't want to know too much, obviously don't this is probably going to be a spoiler, but Paige and Warden are now in Paris together, and Paige is really suffering from PTSD and everything that happened to her in the song Rising. She was horribly tortured and was waterboarded a lot. She's having a difficult time coping after everything that happened. So we're following her and Warden together as she tries to maneuver these new feelings and this fear that she has inside of her. She feels really down on herself and really broken, and she can't even let Warden touch her after everything they've been through. And we're also going back in time in some of the chapters, back to when her and Warden are at the colony together and they're planning this rebellion. So we're going back and forth, but it's both taking place with Paige and Warden together, just in different times. The ending of it was very sweet, and I'm excited to see where the Mask Falling takes it from there. And I'm happy that I read it, because I honestly forgot that there was a novella before the Mask Falling. So I'm happy that I read it because I think I'll be more prepared and ready to see, you know, how Paige is dealing with everything after all of that. Anyway, that was a really good novella, and I gave it 5 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. So that was The Dawn Chorus by Samantha Shannon. The next book that I finished in January was Getting in the Ninth by Tamsin Weir. This book, I am still kind of trying to figure out my feelings about it. I did give it 4 out of 5 stars on Goodreads, and I did enjoy it. Okay, so we're following this character named Gideon. She lives on this planet, like the 9th, because there are like 9 planets, but I think there's more, but that's what I got out of it. So she has been trying to escape this place for basically her entire life. A lot of these people are necromancers, so there's always a lot of skeletons running around, and that's like their type of magic and everything. The next time she's trying to escape, she ends up getting caught. Then we have another character named Harrow, who is the reverend daughter of this place. She's an extremely powerful necromancer. She ends up getting summoned by the Emperor to go through these really difficult trials to become like a better necromancer. I don't remember all the terms. In order to do that, she needs like Cavalier with her, but her Cavalier ends up disappearing and running away. So she convinces Gideon to go with her, and in doing so, Gideon will be able to get free after all of this. So Gideon agrees, even though she really can't stand Harrow, and just Harrow can't stand Gideon. It's just all a disaster. They go to this castle, and it's actually very haunted. They have to get these keys and go through these trials and develop their skills and just become better at what they're doing. Meanwhile, there's a lot of deceit and betrayal in this haunted castle. People end up starting to die, and Harrow and Gideon get thrown into this quest to try to figure out who's killing everybody and what's going to happen. And I am not explaining it well at all, but we have lesbian necromancers in a haunted palace. That is what made me want to read this book. So overall, I really loved the wit and the humor in this book, the banter we get between Gideon and the other characters, especially between her and Harrow. I like the relationship development that we get because, I mean, they start out, it's basically enemies to lovers, but not quite. It's very platonic to me. I mean, it was pretty intense, also a little gory, but I really liked the concept of it. I think the necromancy was really cool, and just like going through the trials. I do have to say I was honestly very confused by it until about halfway through. I honestly was just kind of lost as to what was happening. I just felt like we get so much information, and I don't know, I just felt very confused initially by the concept of it and what was supposed to be happening. But once the storyline picks up and we get to the castle, I felt like I started to really understand what was happening, and I actually got really interested in it. I'm excited to read the second book. I'm very, very devastated about the ending. I was not expecting that to happen. I was very heartbroken. So I definitely want to see where the second book goes. I don't know, I'm still kind of at a loss to how to explain this book and what I liked about it. I did like the writing again, like the concept and the relationship development. The banter, the humor was really great. And like, I think I like that it was like sci-fi fantasy, because there's a lot of like fantastical elements to it, but there's also like the space element to it. I did have a hard time visualizing some of the things, but overall I did enjoy it, and I'm excited to read the next book. Alright, the last book I read in January was A Stranger in the House by Sherry LaPena. The only thriller I read by her was A Couple Next Door, which I actually really loved. That is one of the best ones I've read. So I was really excited to read A Stranger in the House, and I was pleasantly surprised. I was pretty happy with it for the most part. I did only give it 3 out of 5 stars, but that's only because I felt like I could really guess it easily. I don't know if that makes sense. So this story follows Tom and Karen. They're living just a happy life. They just got married a couple years ago. They're very much in love. Beautiful house, great jobs, you know, they're living it up. Then one day, Karen ends up in a really horrible car accident that leaves her with amnesia. She doesn't remember what happened. Tom is surprised because it was like a very shocking thing, because she never drives in this part of town, and it was just a really horrible accident. But she ends up being okay and everything, but she just can't seem to remember what happened. We then follow their neighbor, Bridget. She tends to watch them a lot. She's very much obsessed with them, and there's some history between them. Bridget tries to help out where she can, but Tom is very confused because he doesn't know if Karen's telling the truth about her memory. The detectives tell them that there was a murder that happened right before her accident, that it was in that same time frame. Her accident happened right after the scene of the crime, like right in that same area. He might have been involved in this murder. So Tom doesn't feel like he knows his wife anymore. He's very confused. Karen is very confused because she like doesn't remember a lot, but does she not remember a lot? Anyway, there's a lot of drama in this book. I actually really loved it. It was really hard to put down. I felt like the story was really well written and it was really intriguing and not different than anything I read because I feel like it reminds me of a lot of other thrillers that I read, but it was written in a really fun way. I feel like I put the pieces together really quickly and really fast, like I kind of called what was going to happen pretty early on. I was still pleasantly surprised by a lot of the things that happened, but overall I did enjoy this book. Again, I gave it 3 to 5 stars. Definitely a really good thriller. I highly recommend it if you're looking for something fun. Kind of feel like there should be a second one with these characters because there's just a lot left unsaid. That is it. Those are all the books that I read in the month of January. I am very happy with my reading month. I hope I can continue reading more in February. We'll see how it goes. That is all I have for you today. If you like this video, be sure to give it a nice little thumbs up. If you want to keep following me on this booktube journey, please subscribe to my channel. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at ErikaEGobble. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you soon with another video. Bye!